I've learned it helps when you're set up correctly. You are able to hit the record button, and you're paying attention. Apparently, it's going to be one of those nights. But I think I have a good way to correct it. We got some good pours coming up, and we have, I think, a great guest. But first, I'm Jonathan, and who's with us here?
Mr. Harry Richart
Correct.
from
Thanks for having me,
from
guys.
from the fine establishment of J Mattingly.
Which is now in Frankfort, and your boy Brandon is also in the house. Yeah, I figured I was setting it up for you. I was going to take the Harry's name, but you
I,
decided to just jump ahead.
well, you just winged it. Like you just like I thought you were going to do the introductions, and then you're just like, who we got? So I was like, I can't let our guests introduce themselves. We gotta give them. Come on.
Well, we're professionals here, so we just gotta just
Right.
roll with the
Right.
punches.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we this is a very very complicated production that we got going on.
Yep, and I can't say names, so Harry, welcome in.
Appreciate it,
Yeah.
guys. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Well, and as Brandon said, you're the president at J Mattingly 1845 Distillery in Frankfurt, and we're going to kick it off before we even really, get to know you a little bit more. Let's get to know some of the bourbon, and we're starting it off with your first Frankfurt release, the Open Doors. Is that right?
Yeah, it was the first bourbon release that we did in Frankfurt, and as it were, actually those were bottled in Georgetown at the old spot. We did 1,000 of each. Got some set aside, of course, for different things like this here. But we let off with opening. Actually, the bourbon will try Open Doors. First bourbon release at the new spot, and then the Rye'lly Road. We're at 20 Rye'lly Road in Frankfurt. That was the first rye release. So we'll start off with our best foot forward, so to speak.
I like it. And this one's coming in at 122 proof. It's got a good nose.
Yep. Very good.
To me on this thing, I mean, I just like wonderful caramel, spiced cherry on the nose for sure. Kind of a classic bourbon thing, really, as much as anything, which is actually really what we wanted to do with this. Something that was widely accessible to people. Now it's cask strength, so like obviously, you're dealing with a niche audience in the first place, but something that leaned into classic bourbon and, particularly for the connoisseur class would be something that, they could really resonate with.
Yeah, you definitely get the spice from the high proof. You get that. It's actually not bad, but as far as like you get that Kentucky hug, but it's not like overpowering. It's just it's just something that you would expect at 122 proof.
That's what I
Um,
was thinking. I was like, we've had a few lately that have been in the
yep.
mid hundreds, and they've come in a lot hotter. So I was kind of expecting,
Right.
it's been a minute since we've been at the 120 range,
Hmm.
and I was kind of expecting that to come in hot, and it's really not. It does give you that kind of the chest hug to some degree, but I mean, 122 proof is kind of have to give it a little kick, right?
You'll get a
Right.
little
Right.
Kentucky hug for sure.
Now, can you say what the mash bill or kind of is it a high rye, right? Like just classic bourbon? What kind of?
So actually, these are 7-year-old MGP barrels, 21% rye. We do bottle quite a bit of Kentucky bourbon, but at the time, in 2023, we obviously, like I said, we really wanted to put our best foot forward. So we had some really nice, well stave crafted, a little bit older 7-year-old MGP barrels. So those were the honey barrels on site at the time, and it just made a ton of sense to lead with those. But yeah, MGP 21% rye barrels on these guys here.
No, I think it's a great step forward.
Right.
Brandon and I talk about this a lot. I mean, that high rye is just right in our wheelhouse, and this one doesn't disappoint point at all. It's got a little bit of that spiciness, but it's well rounded in the sense that it's not overpowering on the spice. It's not overpowering on the heat. It's just just a good pour?
Well balanced, approachable. Approachable for people who like drinking 60.
Well, I was gonna say it's pretty
ABV
approachable for
ABV
122.
juice, but yeah, absolutely.
Well,
and of course, the whole thing is like if you're not, if you don't want to drink it neat, like no worries. Like this thing's going to stand up to a couple rocks.
Mm-hmm.
It's not how I drink it necessarily, but if you want to mix it in there with a little ginger ale, a little Sprite, Ale 81, for the Kentucky folks out there, it's going to hold up nice to that, and it's got a nice thick spine to it. So, yeah.
Yep. It does have a lot of flavor. Like I said, it is that it gives you that burn. Like this is not for those folks who are trying to get into the higher proofs. Don't do that. But unless you just want to just dive right in, But most folks, it kind of, they start out lower proof. They want to ease in, and then go up from there. But again, if you're one of those folks that want to get into higher proof and you just want to just jump in head first, and yeah, absolutely. Because there is a lot of flavor to it. Like you said, yeah, I get a lot of cherries and orange on it. This would be really, really good in an old fashioned.
Yep. Yeah, that
You know,
orange zest note for sure, Brandon.
Correct.
Absolutely,
Yep.
man. I totally get that.
Yep.
A little bit of that baking spice mid palate, and then almost
Yep.
like a bready thing that I think is probably more of a callback, honestly, to the malted barley in it. So there is a little bit of that nutty breadiness that probably exists mid to back palate, lingers a touch on the finish, seasoned oak at the finish, caramel throughout. But like we talked about, well balanced, approachable, and got a little something for everybody. And you could, Manhattans, old fashions, absolutely.
Yeah. Even a smoked old fashioned would be really good with that. Because I get a lot of orange on the back end too. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think it'd be really good.
Coke Zero.
No.
No.
A little bit of that. My aunt used to do RC Cola. Rest in peace, Aunt Liza. Yeah, that was her go-to. Yeah, wild turkey and RC Cola, man. So
She knew what she was doing. That's why it's neat and mixed, Brandon.
Folks, boys, So
Oh, Coke Zero. Come on.
it's calorie free, right?
Exactly. Now, Harry, as we're continuing to sip on the first pour, I got to ask, how did you get into the alcohol business? Because I don't think that's what you did when you first got into the world of jobs and things like that.
No, man. Oddly enough, so and I won't wax too lyrically on this, but I graduated. I had from UK major in German and economics. Got out. I did I started off in auto parts at Monoplast in Frankfort, Kentucky, and got done and started bartending full time at Cheddar's on Tates Creek Road, oddly enough. And I got a call from the director of graduate studies, Linda Worley, and she was like, I think you should come and teach German at UK, and we'll pay for you to get your master's in German, and you can do another program if you like. So I did that. I applied to the Patterson School of Diplomacy, so I did a dual master's program, taught German, and basically got a master's degree in 20th century German literature, international finance from the Patterson School, and I taught German at UK for 4 years. And I got out, and I met some great people at UK, but I was a little disillusioned with academia at the time, and wanted to do something in the private sector. So I got a job part time giving tours at good Lord, at Brown Forman for Woodford Reserve. And so I worked for Brown Forman for 4.5 years, ended up working into basically a brand ambassador role on site there, helping out with, everything from giving regular Saturday tours to helping create a new cocktail menu to writing tours to what have you. That actually dried up as COVID came, and tourism kind of fell off a bit. And then I got a job as a brand development manager for Kentucky Eagle distribution here in Central Kentucky, and I did wine and spirits actually for the eastern part of the state. So from basically like Richmond over to Pikeville, down to Middlesboro, and back up. And one of the brands that we carried was J Mattingly 1845 and Bourbon 30. Things obviously went quite well. And I got to meet the man, Jeff Mattingly, who started it all. And he offered me a job. And in 2021, moved into the general manager role. And then a year later became the president of the company. And, the rest is history, as they say.
I mean, that's not a bad gig, just work your way from, teaching to, to having a drink. I mean, I think you did it well.
I've been blessed. And to be honest with you, the thing that's most notable is that along the way, all the way from my childhood, all the way up to recently, it's people, right? So you get to know the right people. They show you how to, operate professionally, how to do the thing. And then, be a sponge, I suppose, if nothing else. And, I've been lucky to do that. So.
Very nice.
Well, and what drew you to J Mattingly? Because obviously, it's a brand that kind of was doing its thing in Georgetown with the Bourbon 30 stuff, all that stuff, and eventually took, you guys moved to Frankfort. But what kind of drew you to wanting to be part of a brand in J Mattingly?
The juice. I mean, simple as that. I bought my first J Mattingly release 2018 from a liquor store just across the county line in Nicholasville. And they'd done a pick called Bluegrass Beast. It was actually a mix, I believe, of 11-year-old bourbon and 7-year-old rye barrels. So a mixed mash bill product. I was dubious, obviously, at first because I'd never really encountered anything like that. But I cracked the thing open, first pour. I was like, these guys are doing something different, something unique. And, I at that point started actually collecting various J Mattingly releases. And then, I got to be honest, working at Kentucky Eagle and having it in my bag, the brand helped me meet sales goals several months. And, going from consumer and fan to someone who, was able to put a little extra jingle in his pocket because of how easy the brand was to sell in the local market. And then getting to know the owner and founder himself. I mean, that went a long way. So I suppose that would be kind of the long answer on that.
I was gonna say, I mean, if you're liking the stuff and you get to work there and be a part of it and do some cool things, I can't blame you on that one.
For sure.
Well, and you talk about some of the different things. We did the first Frankfurt release of the Open Doors. Brandon, do you want to go with the next one and the second first Frankfurt release that we're going to try tonight?
Is that the regular the
Rye'lly Road? Nope, the Rye'lly Road.
The Rye'lly Road.
Nice.
Switch this mash bill up here, friends.
I'm excited for this one.
I was going to say, you got the pretty bottle on that one.
Yeah, I really do like the bottle on it and how you guys did the I guess the presentation of rye on the bottle. That's what I like about it.
And I got to tell you guys, like, rye puns are fantastic. I mean, an endless well of possibilities. When we moved over to Rye'lly Road, Reilly, for those of you that aren't Frankfurt locals, but, it hit well. I want to give a shout out to Zach Jones. He's our barrel inventory manager. He also has a degree in digital design. And so he did these labels for us. And, I think he knocked him out of the park.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I really like that label and how that worked out.
Now we're going to be a little lower on the proof. This is going to be our lowest. Is this our lowest proof of the night? Yeah. No. I don't know. I can't do math.
The classic and this are both 116. So the next two are 116, and then we're blowing it out with the single barrel at 128 at the back end. So
technically I was correct. This is the lowest that we'll do. There'll just be two of them. So this is the the Rye'lly Road Rye. Can you tell us a little bit about it? Was this another MGP?
It is,
What history
yeah,
can you tell us?
95.5, which, I don't want to editorialize too much, guys, but to me, finest commodity rye whiskey on the planet. Unbelievable. Now, I will tell you, as it's young, it gets that dill thing going that I don't particularly love, but if you craft it just right, and we'll hit more on the crafting and the double staving and what have you a little bit later on in the episode, but if you treat this product with care, it will reward you tenfold. So I'll start with that. I believe this is a combination of 5 and 6-year-old barrels here. And it's hypothetically, well, it's probably my favorite pour in front that we'll have tonight. But I admittedly am a bit of a rye whiskey fanboy. So
Well, you are in good company.
almost like a
I knew we liked you.
Christmas
I knew
time
we.
nose, right? Just like wonderful baking spice, a little bit of fruitiness, maybe some of that red fruit, tea, sweet mint, just what you're looking for.
I kind of get it's almost kind of like a fruitcake, like
That's what
like
I'm
grandma's
saying, like
fruitcake.
right, like Christmas fruitcake, man, like
Yeah,
100%. No, I totally
yeah,
agree. Yeah, that's
yeah.
the
Like
vibe. That's the vibe. 100%. Yeah.
yeah, it really is. Like it's. I was sitting here thinking about it. Like and folks are folks watching the episode. They're gonna be like, "What is he doing?" And I'm sitting here just trying to like figure it out. Like what is happening? I'm sitting here smacking my lips. Like I don't know
You're
what's
just
going on.
going
Like
down the holler to
yeah,
grandma's house.
yep, yep. Christmas time, to grandma's house. The whole family's there. Grandma makes her homemade fruitcake, literally, because you get the spices and that cinnamon and that brown sugar, almost kind of nutty, but then you get the fruitness. Oh man, yeah,
And full disclosure, I mean, even better, the palate, like, is lively as hell, like, almost like it almost hits like pop rocks, like,
hmm
real, like a
There's a lot
live
going
wire
on
on
it.
your tongue, you know what I'm saying? And then layers and layers of complexity. I mean, you do have top end sweetness. There is some of that, like you said, like white pepper, cinnamon, maybe like cardamom thing going on at that mid palate.
yep,
Skosh, the fruitiness, which like maybe like stone fruit, maybe a little bit more of that orange zest, and then a
yep,
return to the oak, slightly dry, a little astringent at the end, but then that sweetness and a little bit of that like really subtle spice like kind of just hangs with you, right? Oof.
yep,
No,
yep.
I was gonna say, as you mentioned that you're a rye guy. Brandon and I, like I said, we love high rye bourbon, and I honestly, Brandon, would you say both of us probably love rye more than a high
Yep.
rye bourbon?
Yep. Oh, well, 100%.
And this is
And
hitting the spot.
now to me, I think the really cool thing about rye is, and this is what like, again, I'll be shouting out some of my guys today, but Aaron Mullally, who, in my money, for my money, is one of the best rye blenders on the planet, and he works for us and does outside sales and does a lot of the blending. But the way he talks about it essentially is that rye is so versatile, meaning like, I mean, there's really only 3 or 4 major avenues you can take blending a bourbon. Like the bourbon's going to be spicy, it's going to be or sweet, or you can lean into fruitiness. But like, really, bourbon's kind of tough to blend. Like you can go off the tracks pretty easily. Rye seems to be super conducive to creative blending. You can take it in a million different directions. You can almost blend stuff that almost tastes like a scotch to stuff that tastes like a bourbon. And you can do all that with 95.5 MGP, which is insane. So to me, the versatility of that whiskey and it being the first, the first, the preeminent American whiskey all the way, a couple hundred years ago. I love it.
Yeah,
I was gonna say I'm right there with you. This is it's tasty because like Brandon said, it's got that kind of that nice mix of, you get those baking spices again with the rye, like we did on the open doors, but a nice bit of fruit. But it's not overly spicy to me at all. It's just another good, smooth, approachable pour.
Did you mention the age on this?
5 and 6 year old barrels.
Okay, nice, nice, awesome.
And
And
I'm also, go ahead.
no, you go right ahead.
I do notice that rye typically kind of hits that ripeness, that really good spot, a little bit earlier than bourbon. Just it seems to hit right where you want it a year or two earlier on schedule.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Like for me, like I see you guys sitting on the shelves and stuff everywhere I go, like J Mattingly, and of course you're drawn to that beautiful, nice wax top. But for folks that like me, and everybody else that wants to come in, they see your guys on the shelf. Can you just give us a brief history of the J Mattingly brand, the family, the distillery, so that way we, everybody gets a little backstory of it. Because like I said, I've walked into a liquor store a million times, see you guys sitting on the shelf, and some folks, may not know the story, or so just give us a little bit of that history.
Absolutely. Happy to do it. J Mattingly, 1845. That 1845 is a callback. So Jeff's great uncle, 5 or 6 times over, John Graves Mattingly, established the second licensed distillery in Kentucky, Mattingly and Sons, in 1845. So it starts there. And then actually, they actually grew in prominence through the 1860s and 70s via contract distilling. And actually, the first barrels that were bought by Brown Forman, by George Garvin Brown, I believe, in late 1860s and then into 1870, to create the world's first bottled bourbon, Old Forester, were made by the Mattingly family. And that was actually Benjamin Franklin Mattingly, as it were. Now, the brand kind of goes away towards the turn of the century. Obviously, stays that way through Prohibition. And then really it's resuscitated in 2010. Now, there are Mattingleys who have married into the Willett family. Margaret Samuels, who came up with the red dip wax for makers, her nay was Mattingly, so she was part of the family as well. So there's Mattingleys that have been spread out, all over the industry for going on about 180 years now. But Jeff, actually, he worked as a production manager at Toyota. He retired. And then basically, took his retirement and his life savings and started a distillery in 2010 called Bourbon 30 Spirits. We've talked about it a lot, but we're at a lot of different places. So, was it Three Boys Farm, which is now Whiskey Thief for a while? Was it Glens Creek Distilling over near Woodford Reserve in Castle and Key for a little bit before that? And then had his own distillery beginning in 2015 in Georgetown, about 3,500 square feet. And the company really found its footing then. And from 2016 to 2023, we're there. And then basically, the success beget opportunities, and we were able to buy a facility in 2022 and then redo it. That was in Frankfort, across the street from Buffalo Trace, where we are now. But I suppose that's kind of the elevator pitch for the company.
Nice. Now you mentioned a couple of times, just kind of dropped it throughout the show so far about this double stave process. Walk us through that and what that means, kind of what it does, what you think it, or not even think, maybe know, obviously.
Sure.
What that process does to make make it taste better.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So I kind of start off at 30,000 feet and then maybe drill in. So this is something you guys will know, most of your listener base will know, but 80%,
Yep.
in my estimation, of the flavor is oak derived, right? So Quercus alba, American white oak. Now the distillate's got to be right. You guys know that. The distillate's got to be just right, but really the magic happens in the barrel, and I mean, you can have, you can do all the chemical analysis you want. You can have a top of the line mass spectrometer and do all that stuff, but like there is a bit of voodoo that goes along with barrel aging, right? So, I mean, what Jeff sorted out was that if contact with, well treated oak that's been seasoned properly, toasted, charred to the right level is good for it. Well, what happens if we expose it to a bit more, right? So, he started off actually doing this a lot with light whiskey, as it were. Those barrels were really inexpensive from MGP. They were 12, 13, 14 years old at the time. And, realistically, he was taking old barrels, he was sanding them off completely. We were, basically charring them with on the street with a torch, and then dropping them into barrels and seeing what was happening. Now, it has become a lot more refined than that. But really, at the end of the day, extra exposure to oak that has been toasted perfectly, charred for just the amount of time, and then thrown into barrels on an ad hoc basis, depending on how they taste. And then you have a clear, you have to have a clear mindset of where you're going with it, right? So, I mean, everything is going to be a little different. So you crack a barrel open, 4.5 years old, you taste the thing, you assess it, just like we're doing here, sensory analysis. You then kind of figure out as a group, what direction are we going to take this barrel in, right? So it may be super sweet up front. Maybe it needs balance. Maybe it needs more sweetness. Maybe it needs, I don't know, a little bit more of an oaky or a fuller back end. Maybe the viscosity of the whiskey's wrong. But like one way or another, we have done enough staving over the years that we know that, we've got these, 6 to 8 different treats that we do on these. So various toast levels, various char levels. That if you stave it in a certain sequence and stave it a certain way, you're going to be able to influence outcomes, basically moving the flavor profile to different ends of the flavor wheel. So, through trial and error over years, essentially we've perfected that. So we do new oak, we do used oak, we do all sorts of different things. And every single one of these barrels is handled individually, and then we have a massive spreadsheet that basically we keep, and it's proof. The proof's in the pudding, right? So like, all right, we staved this barrel, we let it sit with staves for 3 years. It was 4 when we staved it. It was 7 when we emptied it. It tasted like this at the beginning. It tasted like this at 6 months, this at 12 months, 18, and so on. So trial and error, and willing to maybe screw up a little bit, right? So like it hasn't all worked. Sometimes it doesn't work out as well. Now the good news is that because we've been at this for about 15 years, we do know what works and what doesn't work. So, there's less failed experiments, but the long and the short of it is be innovative, be fearless, and don't be afraid to take a chance. And that's what we do with the staving. Every single one of them gets treated a little bit differently, and that's how we're able to, kind of create the flavor profiles we do. And some of it's a little wonky and weird, and that's kind of our position, right?
I like that.
Absolutely.
Well,
Cool.
and I was going to say it's something different, and I know more people are getting into kind of the finishing and in different ways to kind of either separate themselves or elevate the liquid that's in the bottle, and it's really cool to see kind of what you've done with that double staving process, and it's also kind of neat. The next pour that we're going to do is something that's very unique for y'all, because as we'll talk about afterwards, is something that you hadn't done before in those 15 years until last year, and that's what you guys quote unquote called the classic. And on the bottle, it's the lovely Black Label double staved, one hell of a pick, J Mattingly 6-year Kentucky bourbon.
That's correct, sir.
Well, that was a good bottle pop there. So what can you tell us about this guy, this 6-year-old Kentucky bourbon, 116 proof?
So, I mean, interestingly enough, and I, it's not really so much a tail wagging the dog type of a thing, but we did find that, obviously it was super easy to sell our model and what we did on site, right? So when people come into the distillery, they breathe it, they meet us, they taste out of the barrels, they get it. What we did find is that for some of the wholesale partners we've had who are fantastic, it was a little bit harder for them, because if you've got a wholesaler, a sales rep out, and I worked at Kentucky Eagle for a while, you got 100 things in your bag, and knowing the nuance of what you're doing for every single brand is almost impossible. So what you try to do is make things a little easier. Now, what we wanted to do was kind of come up with something that represented the best of the brand, but was a little bit easier for folks who aren't necessarily fully in the tent to go and showcase. And so that's what we wanted to do with this. And that's what we've done. Now, I will tell you, it took us over a year of R&D to get here on this thing, because if we were going to put something out that was going to be standardized, it better be damn good. So Cameron Mattingly's Jeff's son. He's our VP of operations. He's 25 years old. I'd say, and I don't want to say too much. I know he'll be listening to this later, but freakishly talented. Unbelievable.
It's going to go right to his head.
And this is his baby. And, he instinctively knows that anyway. But, he started working at the distillery as a kid with his dad. And so, you don't run across a lot of guys in this industry who are in their mid-20s who've, got over a decade of experience, right? So, it really only comes from people who are, in the family and grow up with it in their blood. And he certainly is that. And this thing, we've gotten lots of critical acclaim. I think the thing that was most heady for us, Jim Murray, who does the Whiskey Bible, he gave it a unbelievable score. I believe it was like a 98 or something like that. And then we made Fred Minnick's top 25 whiskeys of 2024, which, pretty heady stuff, honestly, for us. And Cameron and, our production manager, Bradley Jones, and our barrel inventory manager, Zach Jones, who's his brother, and Aaron, who I mentioned earlier. These are the guys who made this happen, and they babied the hell out of this, and they made something that's really quite nice. Ooh.
Brandon, what's your thoughts?
I think this is, for a 6-year bourbon, 118 proof, it doesn't drink like 118 to me. And now, again, we've started out, we've had 122 proof, we've had 116, now 118. So we're all right there, right in that same area with the proofs tonight. And this right here doesn't drink like 118 to me.
I think what this has that kind of, and I appreciate that. I think what this has, and there is almost like a perfumey, really fine type of a thing with this, and you can taste it. It's on the palate. It's complex. It is well rounded, but it's that. I'll say this. So. My unicorn bottle, things that I go after, mid to late 80s turkey, freaking obsessed. So good. I got an 88 open right now. Unbelievable.
Yep.
But there's almost like a funk on it, a perfuminess, something that you can't quite put your finger on. And I think he's incorporated that into this, which to me just reeks of luxury. And I love it, to be honest.
Yeah, and this drinks to me like between 105 and 110 is what it drinks to me. How smooth it is. I get honestly that last drink, that last sip, I get a ton of like salted caramel coming out of it. I don't know why, but
No,
that's
all
just
through it,
what hit
front to
me.
back. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So like, I mean, well done. Like, I don't think I do kind of get a hint of what you're saying of that like that just subtle funk, but it doesn't. And normally when you drink something that has that funk to it, it just tastes like pure, grass. Like tastes like rotted hay laying in the field after it rained for 3 days. But that's not it. This subtle funk gives it that little bit more of a that pungent flavor you're talking about. But it's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. So
Yeah, and I think
I
this is
like it.
batch. This is batch two, so actually, I mean, it's got a 6-year age statement on it. Most of these are 7-year-old barrels, but
Yeah.
you're running with a standardized product, so they were 6 years when we printed it, and we're not going to change it. But
Even the nose is fantastic as well.
I think, and then when I talk about that funk, and I think you nailed it, but like it allows this thing to kind of punch above its weight class for me. It's a product that drinks above the sum of its parts. 70% corn, 21% rye, 9% malted barley on the mash bill. I imagine for the bourbon nerds
Yep.
among you, you probably can figure out where that comes from, but definitely a Kentucky producer.
Yeah, for sure. Yep.
Well, and you guys have done a great job with, you talked about that year long process, and because I'm guessing it's multiple parts when you're trying to create this kind of flagship house bourbon, whatever you kind of quote unquote want to call it, because one, you got to find barrels that you like, but you also got to find enough that you can keep getting and having and in stock to recreate it consistently or very close every year, every batch. Like what was it like to do that, and why did you guys really want to dive into kind of having that house bourbon? Was it because like Brandon said, he's seen the name on things when he's gone into a store, many times, but a lot of those are picks. A lot of those, you might get something a little different every time. Is that kind of why you guys were like, it's time?
Interestingly enough, and I can equate it to what I know, right? So the years I spent at Woodford Reserve, right? Like, I mean, the best thing that I think that the company makes over there is double up, but that's not what carries the brand, right? So like my whole thing is that like you build off what you do that's special off of a core offering. And it's really honestly like this thing's almost like a love letter to people who have never had our stuff before, right? So you try this gets you in the door. And then, once you become a fan, then you start to, venture out and you get into the different stuff. But, at the end of the day, like when it comes to, I mean, it's so crowded these days. There's so many producers. And what has complicated a bit is, NDPs, admittedly. I mean, there's people all over the place that, don't have TTB basic permits that are able to make brands. I'm not going to make an assessment on that one way or another in this conversation, but at the end of the day, you've got to have something that resonates with a large amount of folks that gets people in the door, and then they build off of that. And then you're like, ooh, like I said, if we're using this, okay, like the Woodford Rye is killer. The Woodford Double Oak's really good. Oh, have you tried the Double Oaked? Have you tried, Brandy Cask Finish Masters Collection? And that's how you really build brand equity with folks. And you create a product that resonates with people, which in turn makes them more and more curious about what you're doing. So, just building a spine to be our rock and then build the rest of the esoteric, awesome shit off of it.
I didn't think that we were going to have esoteric mentioned ever on this show, and I
Sorry,
love that.
I told you
That's
guys.
that's that background, that earlier background that you talked
You know
about.
what I'm saying? Like,
I thought you said you got away from the.
it's
I,
like Curry. I
I
got
thought you
cursed
said you got
immediately
away from the
after it, right?
academic stuff.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah,
right. I was
like
able to center it by cursing, perhaps. I
I
don't know.
We're
guess.
we're simple folk.
Come on. Well, I mean, I guess once a scholar, always a scholar. I guess. Like,
Yeah, when you guys start.
No, I do.
Go ahead.
come on, man.
I was gonna say we got to give you a hard time, but I do love the pour, and I had to go back and double check. For 6, 7 year old stuff. I mean that is crafted, handcrafted, kind of hand blended. It's not a bad price point either at 110. So it's still again a very approachable. It is on the higher end of kind of what Brandon and I would love to all. It makes it easy to go get, but when you get to try and get to do things like that, you realize, oh, there's a lot more to this than just the normal 6, 7 year old stuff, and like I said, it's really good pour. Like
we
keep saying
sold
that,
it
but
on our
you guys are doing
website
pretty
for
well.
under $100 and stuff like that. Yeah, you can, but it shows up occasionally for under 100. That's what we wanted to do with it. Now you will run into SRP at 110. I mean, hard to tell what each retailer is going to take their own margin and what have you. So, and we understand that, but yeah, I mean, we want it to be, somewhere in the $95 to $110 a bottle range is what we were after.
Gotcha. Awesome. Well, should we move into the next pour?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. I mean, you don't have to tell me now. Now, granted, this one's a little higher proof.
This will be the highest proof of the evening.
I feel like for this one, I got to go hat backward and join you, Brandon.
Yep.
Yeah,
might as well.
I think that's right.
Full tilt. Awesome. So we got the single barrel. The bottle says one hell of a pick.
Birthday on the Banks.
I'm going to be really...
128 proof. Birthday on the Banks.
First thing
and
we've
this
had.
Is
I've not tried it. So
bottle 9 of 80. So we'll see what we got.
MGP.
Even got the white birthday cake topper. MGP.
7 or 8 years, ton of staves. Every now and again, we don't do a whole lot of single barrels. We're doing a bit more as the time goes by and what have you. But if we find something exceptional, you get it into steel immediately, and you bottle that bad boy up, and that's what we've done here. So, and like I said, I've not had this, so I'm going to be.
And I will say that the juice that you guys are putting in this bottle is as dark as I've seen it. Like it is, you know what I mean? Like it looks seasoned. It looks old. So whatever you guys are doing with that stave process, and of course it's coming out at barrel proof. So
I just want to hear your thoughts, Brandon, on the nose.
I'm loving this nose.
Completely different than anything else we've had tonight.
Yeah. I'm not going to lie. The first couple sniffs stings the nostrils. So it smells hot.
You gotta let her oxidize just a touch.
But you gotta let it open up a little bit. So
see, I had pre-poured, well, not like super far ahead, but like 5 minutes, like 4 minutes, and my goodness.
Because I will say,
totally different.
Not to throw off your all's rhythm, but I just went back to Open Doors and noticed that, and it's like freaking creme brulee, all over this thing. Just delightful.
Yeah,
Anyways.
and see now it's opening up more. Like you are getting that like brown sugar, toasted. Even though it's not even it's not what would you call a toasted barrel, but I mean it just smells toasty.
It's deep red amber on the this thing really is, and the viscosity matches what it looks like. So it's like oily and thick and exactly what the hell I want, honestly.
I'm just enjoying nosing it. I haven't even gone any further.
Oh, get in there. Oh, maple notes all over it.
Bourbon bread pudding.
Oh, there you go. Now he's got it.
I
Yeah.
was gonna say I had on the nose. I was like buttery bread, all that, and then
Right.
as soon as you said bourbon bread, I was like, oh yeah, that. As I drank it, I was like, oh, yeah, this is fantastic.
Right?
And honestly, to
You
nail
get
that
that.
with a
Damn you
single
for getting
barrel-
the big bottle of this. Damn you.
I'll share more. But yeah, you get that. Like you said, you get that viscosity on it. It really is. Um, it's not light. It's not a light pour, obviously, like in the mouthfeel. Um, but you get that, like I said, that vanilla, that buttery stuff that John was talking about. That it kind of, and you kind of get a little fruit notes in the back end. Like it's, man,
It's a
I
big
don't know
deal.
if I've had anything as flavorful as this when it comes to something that's higher proof. Now, don't get me wrong, I love to veer toward the higher proof stuff because just being a seasoned veteran that I am in the bourbon game, drinking it obviously, um, the higher proof stuff usually comes with more flavor
It
if
does.
they're done right, of course. Now, of course, if they're not done right, it'll just burn your hair off, and then you go back to the lower stuff. But yeah,
What I think what shocked me, I kind of I cleansed my palate just a little bit because I was like, wait, did I miss this? I know we went 122, 116, 116, 118, all that stuff, and went up to the 128. But if you would blind poured me that, there is no way I would have ever said that was 128 proof. Like that is how I know it's
Sneaky
cliche to say
dangerous.
smooth, but like for 128, like yeah, that's going to get you in trouble. Like
Yeah.
because there was no. I want to say on the open doors, I had more of the Kentucky Hug than I did on the 128.
And
yeah,
full disclosure,
oh,
first
one
one
hundred
he
percent,
tried.
totally
But
agree.
agreed.
Yeah,
Yep.
and that's why I said I know we've kind of worked our way to it and all that, but I'm like, wow, like that's an impressive bottle.
Appreciate
Absolutely. Like, yeah, like the open doors definitely had a bigger. It had a bigger sting to it, like especially that Kentucky Hug that burned going down than this. Now again, like you guys saw live and in action, I had to let mine open up a little bit because the first couple noses I got of it, I was like, oh, okay, all right.
Well,
But
and Harry, as you guys do all these different things, I'm guessing from Jay to Jay Mattingly to Cameron to you, everyone there, you all love getting kind of creative with the blends and doing some fun things, right?
That's the lifeblood of it, man. Like, want it to be. It's like, and we talked about single barrels. So we don't do a lot of single barrels. They can be really solid, really good. They're usually not super interesting. Just full disclosure. So we bottle them when they are. But yeah, I mean, we love to get super creative with it. We love to kind of let it be a little weird, and maybe you find some flavors in bourbon that you didn't think you'd get. So yeah, I mean, that's the name of the game. That's what gets everybody up in the morning and super motivated to come out and come and work.
100%, man, 100%.
I'm still blown
What?
away by this one.
Yeah. So what?
Sorry, go ahead.
So now this has kind of got me excited because after this board, especially, if you can tell us or speak of it a little bit, what you got anything interesting coming down the pipeline? Anything new that would give everybody a little bit of excitement about, especially me?
Yeah, we've got some older stuff that we've been kind of sitting on for a little bit. And
Yeah.
I'm not going to say a whole lot, but we've got some stuff that's going to be dropping later this year that might be a little bit more mature, a little bit different than maybe what we've kind of, some of the ground we've tread in the past. And then the other thing I'll note, and this is kind of a different thing and whatnot, but so the company, my dad is a retired Army colonel. Jeff's oldest son has been involved in the military for 10, 12 years since he got out of high school at Lafayette. We've had a lot of different vets on staff and what have you. So we raise a ton of money for military units. So we do a lot of stuff like that. And those are fun. I mean, with those, obviously the whiskey's right, but the package is kind of killer. We do a combat infantry badge bottle. We're almost done through batch 5 of that. It's got like, we have like an auto medal on the front of it. It comes with basically like the shoulder, the rope that the guys wear around that's light blue. We have actually an official partnership with the 82nd Airborne Association, which is nationwide. So we do bottlings for them and raise money, and we give money all over the place. So I do want to give a shout out to a couple guys. Troy Stout, who helps us work with Three Rangers Foundation, Blue Skies for the good guys and gals. They help Gold Star families, the 82nd Airborne Association, Camp Brown Bear, who was former Navy SEAL runs, Steve Brown runs, that we've paired up with for the last several years. Awesome people. Rolling Thunder in Lexington, Kentucky. Awesome. And so we love raising money and giving money back to vets. So there will be military releases that come out. And then, for the whiskey aficionados set, maybe some older bottles that are coming too.
Nice.
I was just gonna tell Harry to keep drinking, and maybe he'll say it on air live. I don't know.
You guys are probably about 15, 20 minutes away from that. So, we
All right, we gotta go now.
long enough. I might give up too many of the dirty deets,
Yeah.
Well, we don't want to get you in trouble on that, but
No.
you talk about doing those amazing things, and you guys have now moved to Frankfort, like you said, right across from Buffalo Trace. When people get to come by the distillery and see y'all's place, what can they expect? I'm guessing you're if clearly you love custom blends, creative blends, you're gonna love the place.
So first thing is you're going to come in and you're going to get treated like family. So like that is from the Mattinglys down. You come in, we don't call you, you're not customers. You come in as a guest, you leave as family. And actually, if it's your first time in, we've got J Mattingly, welcome to the family stickers. Everybody gets those. And it's going to be one-on-one, and it's going to be heavily involved. The J Mattingly experience is really what kind of grew the company, which is come in, taste from barrels, make your own blend, choose your wax, wood top, name your batch. That's what started it all. So, you can come in and get a bottle tasting and a tour, and that's not, too involved, and you get it out in half an hour. But the funnest things we do, single barrel tastings, where you can maybe try to find one like the last one we just tried, right? Or you can make your own blends. And there are a number of different competitors of ours that do single barrel stuff. Super cool. I really admire what most people in the industry are doing, particularly those guys. But the blending, nobody else does that. Like going in, being a master blender for the day, that's kind of a one-off and super unique. If you really want the full experience, set yourself 2 hours aside, eat lunch before you come or breakfast, and come in and blend with us.
That is key. You got to get something in there. Otherwise, you're going to regret it later.
Yeah, come in with the base. Stack of pancakes, burger before you come in. Not gonna hurt you.
No.
No, this Harry. I gotta say for me, I've known about J Mattingly Bourbon 30 for a while. I've been in Lexington for, it's crazy to think, almost 10 years now, and but I haven't really had a chance to try a whole lot, and I gotta admit I'm super impressed with everything, and it's all high proof, like, and it's wild too that it's high proof, which Brandon and I do love, but usually we're more in that 105, 110 for most people. That's kind of, I'm not gonna say that's all we like, but that's
But
typically. But
That's the high end.
yeah.
Yeah.
but
For most
man,
people, yeah.
122 that's smooth as it did give you a hug. 116s that were just approachable, which is wild to say. Then a 128, which I know we had after all those. But I mean, that single barrel is fantastic.
Thank you. That means a lot. I really
100%.
appreciate it, guys. That's very nice. That's
Yeah.
very kind. Thank you.
Really,
We
really.
might make him cry. I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, it never. I'll say this. Never gets old hearing that from people who are fans of the category, who love bourbon, who put a lot of their time professionally and personally into it. It means the world. I got to be honest. So I appreciate it.
Absolutely. 100%.
Well, and so I got to ask this, and then I'll let Brandon kind of wrap it up. But so obviously you guys source barrels, different things. So many brands do. Are you making stuff on site too? And what's the goal there? Kind of talk us through that a little bit, because I'm curious, because you guys are really good at picking stuff and making things that you pick better. What else are you doing?
So my last shout out, and probably the best one, Cecil Waits is our distiller. We do not make a lot. We actually are making a ton of wheated bourbon right now. He's from Shelby County. He grew up making brandy in the woods with his grandpa, who was a local winemaker. And, he made his first still, so he learned early, and then actually went down and worked on oil rigs as a repair guy, and then eventually, I believe, a project foreman in the Gulf of Mexico. I was stationed out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana. So understands the mechanics, understands the art of it. And we've got a tiny still. We're not filling that many barrels. It's not crazy volume. We want to get a bigger one, but the capital outlay for that type of stuff is pretty prohibitive from time to time. So, we're saving up our money and moving in that direction. But we have been making our own, and I got to tell you what he makes. We do sell the White Dog at the gift shop under the name of Cecil's Cut. Killer 375s. I think they're $20 a piece. So we're making our own, and it's killer. He does an awesome job. And we'd love to have, a couple $1 million still from Vendome or whatever, and crank out a couple 100 barrels a day, but we're not quite there yet. So, you have to check back in with us probably in a couple years, and hopefully we'll have that Cadillac still set up and can really, crank some volume and what have you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't believe you don't have a couple million just laying around.
I know, right? Hey, if you guys find it, please let me know.
Have you looked under the couch cushions?
I hadn't thought about that. When we get done here, I'm gonna go change surfing.
Well, at my house, you might find some things you don't want to find. But I've got a 6-year-old that just leaves things everywhere.
Fair enough.
That's awesome.
Fair enough. Like Cheerios, toys, what have you. Yeah, I got you.
That's awesome.
Brandon, anything else?
I don't, man. This has been a pleasure. I'm glad we got you guys on to try some of your stuff. Like John said, I've known about you guys for quite a while, but I haven't had a chance to try hardly any of your guys' stuff, and I'm blown away, like really. So I'm excited to see what's coming. I'm excited to try some other variations of what you guys have already put out, other than what we tried tonight, and hopefully we can keep having you guys on and trying new stuff, and keep promoting the brand and helping you guys out. So thoroughly enjoyed it, man.
Appreciate it, and I'd be remiss if I didn't invite you guys anytime you want, obviously we've got each other's contact info. You need to come out and blend a couple bottles up for yourself. I'd be more than happy to be your bourbon Sherpa while you're on site. So you let me know whenever you want. We'd love to host you.
I'm in.
I was going to say, I don't think Brandon's going to turn that down.
No, we can do the hops and spirits remix bottle.
Can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, and two, I'd be remiss if I don't ask this. See, I got to drop a little. It wasn't your words, but I got to drop something a little remiss. So we said 110 on the classic, which is pretty solid for craft brand and things like that. Price points for y'all. I know when you're doing custom stuff, it's a lot more difficult to get it super low. But can you tell folks a little bit about what they can expect if they do certain things with y'all?
Yeah, so custom bottles are $120 a piece. That's basically what we run them at. We actually basically the same price as everything else. So we don't go over the top when it comes charging for the stuff. Now there's, if you drink out of 6 or 7 barrels, it's $55 tasting fee for that. The bottles are the exact same price as it were, other than the classic, which is a little bit less expensive like we talked about. We're making that at scale. So,
No, man, I love that, and as Brandon said, we can't wait to come visit. And Harry, cheers, and thanks for sharing some good pours with us.
Cheers,
anytime, Jonathan, Brandon, pleasure.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you.